Speaking English fluently means talking clearly, smoothly, and with confidence. It helps us in school, at work, and in daily life. When we speak English well, we can connect with people from different countries. To become fluent, we need to listen, speak, read, and practice every day. One good way to learn is by reading stories about great people, like Abraham Lincoln. Good morning or afternoon, everyone. Today, I am going to talk about one of the most inspiring leaders in world history, Abraham Lincoln. He was the 16th president of the United States, but more than that, he was a symbol of honesty, courage, and hope. Lincoln's life story is not just about politics or war. It's about rising from poverty, working hard, standing up for what is right, and never giving up even when everything seems difficult. From a small log cabin in the countryside to the highest office in the nation, his journey teaches us powerful lessons about leadership, equality, and determination. In this speech, I will take you through the important moment of Abraham Lincoln's life, his struggles, his victories, and how he helped shape a better future for millions of people. I hope his story inspires you just like it has inspired me. Let's begin. Abraham Lincoln was born on February 12, 1809, in a small one-room log cabin in Hardin County, Kentucky, which is now known as LaRue County. His parents, Thomas Lincoln and Nancy Hanks Lincoln, were simple farmers who lived a very modest life. The family was not rich. In fact, they were very poor, and life on the frontier was extremely hard. When Abraham was just 7 years old, the family moved to Indiana, where they tried to start a new life. But tragedy struck early. When Lincoln was only 9 years old, his mother, Nancy, died from a disease called milk sickness. This loss was very painful for young Abraham, and it shaped his quiet, serious personality. After his mother's death, his father remarried a kind woman named Sarah Bush Johnston, who treated Abraham like her own son. She encouraged him to read and learn, even though he had very little access to school. In total, Abraham had less than 1 year of formal education, but he had a deep love for learning. He would walk miles just to borrow a book, and often read late into the night by firelight. Some of the books that inspired him were the Bible, Aesop's Fables, Robinson Crusoe, and the life of George Washington. He taught himself how to read, write, and think deeply. This self-education became one of his strongest tools later in life. As a teenager, Lincoln worked hard. He helped his father on the farm, cut wood, and did other tough physical labor. People in his community began to notice that Abraham was strong, honest, and thoughtful. Even at a young age, he was admired for his character. His early life was full of challenges, poverty, loss, and hard work, but it built the foundation for the strong and wise leader he would one day become. Young adult years. As Abraham Lincoln grew into a young man, he continued to face a life of hard work and simple living. In his early 20s, he left his father's home and began living on his own. He moved to a small village called New Salem in Illinois, where he started to build his own life. Lincoln worked many different jobs during these years. He was a store clerk, a farm hand, a rail splitter, and even a postmaster. He also worked as a surveyor, helping to measure land. Although none of these jobs made him rich, each one helped shape his experience and build his reputation for honesty and responsibility. People in New Salem quickly began to notice his kind nature, storytelling skills, and sense of fairness. He was tall, strong, and had a great sense of humor. He became popular in the community, and many people trusted and respected him. During this time, Lincoln also began taking interest in law and politics. He would often borrow books about law and government and read them deeply. Even though he had no formal college education, he taught himself to become a lawyer. This kind of self-study was not common, but Lincoln was determined. In 1836, after years of study and practice, he passed the bar exam and officially became a lawyer. Lincoln moved to Springfield, Illinois, where he started his law career. He became known as a smart and fair attorney who could explain complicated ideas in simple ways. He worked hard to help people, especially those who couldn't afford expensive legal help. These young adult years were a turning point in Lincoln's life. He had grown from a poor farm boy into a self-educated, respected lawyer and community leader. He had built a name for himself through honesty, hard work, and a deep belief in fairness, qualities that would define his future as a leader. The road to presidency. As Abraham Lincoln's reputation grew in Illinois, so did his interest in politics. In 1834, he was elected to the Illinois state legislature as a member of the Whig Party. He served 4 terms and became known for his strong speaking skills, logical thinking, and commitment to public service. During this time, he continued to study law and improve his knowledge of government and the Constitution. In 1846, Lincoln took his political career to the national level. He was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. While in Congress, he spoke out against the Mexican-American War and criticized President Polk for starting it. He also expressed his moral opposition to slavery, though he believed at the time that the government had limited power to abolish it where it already existed. After 1 term in Congress, Lincoln returned to Illinois and focused on his law career. He spent the next few years practicing law across the state, becoming one of the most respected attorneys in the region. But the national debate over slavery continued to grow, and Lincoln could not stay silent. In 1854, a new law called the Kansas-Nebraska Act allowed new states to decide for themselves whether they would allow slavery. Lincoln strongly opposed this law because he believed that slavery was morally wrong and should not be allowed to expand into new territories. This led him back into politics with greater passion. He joined the newly formed Republican Party, which was created to stop the spread of slavery. In 1858, he ran for the U.S. Senate against the powerful Democrat Stephen A. Douglas. Although Lincoln lost the election, the debates between Lincoln and Douglas became famous all over the country. In these Lincoln-Douglas debates, Lincoln spoke with deep emotion and logic. He said, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." He meant that the country could not survive if half of it allowed slavery, and the other half did not. His powerful words caught the attention of people across America. In 1860, the Republican Party chose Abraham Lincoln as their candidate for President of the United States. He had become a symbol of honesty, unity, and the hope for a better future. His simple background and clear moral values made him a popular choice in the North. When Lincoln won the election in November 1860, it shocked many in the South. They feared he would end slavery, even though he only promised to stop it from spreading, not to end it immediately. In response, 7 southern states decided to leave the United States and form their own country, called the Confederate States of America. Later, 4 more states joined them. This set the stage for a great crisis in American history. Abraham Lincoln was elected president at a time when the nation was on the edge of war. The road to the presidency was not easy, but Lincoln had walked it with patience, wisdom, and strong belief in justice and unity. President during the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln officially became the 16th President of the United States on March 4th, 1861. But instead of a peaceful beginning, his presidency started during a time of great crisis. Just weeks after he took office, the first shots of the American Civil War were fired at Fort Sumter, South Carolina, in April 1861. The Civil War was a fight between the northern states, called the Union, and the southern states, called the Confederacy, who had left the United States to form their own country. The main reason for the war was slavery. The South wanted to keep slavery and expand it into new states, while the North, led by Lincoln, wanted to stop slavery from growing. Lincoln's main goal at first was not to end slavery completely, but to keep the Union together. He believed that America was stronger as one united nation, not 2 separate ones. As the war went on, Lincoln's views began to change. He realized that the war was not only about saving the Union, it was also a fight for freedom and human rights. In 1862, Lincoln announced a bold new idea, the Emancipation Proclamation. On January 1st, 1863, it became law. It declared that all enslaved people in the Confederate States were now free. This did not end slavery everywhere right away, but it changed the meaning of the war. Now, the Union was fighting not just to reunite the country, but to end slavery forever. The Emancipation Proclamation also allowed African American men to join the Union Army. Around 180,000 black soldiers served in the war, showing great courage and helping the North win important battles. The war was long and bloody. More than 600,000 Americans died. Lincoln faced many challenges, not only from the South, but also from people in the North who disagreed with him. Some thought he was too slow, while others thought he was going too far. But Lincoln stayed strong. He believed deeply in what he was doing and always tried to do what was right. One of Lincoln's most famous moments during the war came in November 1863, at the site of the Battle of Gettysburg, where thousands of soldiers had died. There, he gave the Gettysburg Address, a short speech of just 272 words. But in that brief moment, Lincoln reminded the nation why it was fighting. He spoke of freedom, equality, and government of the people, by the people, for the people. Those words still inspire people around the world today. By 1864, Lincoln was re-elected as president. Many Americans now saw him as a symbol of hope, strength, and unity. As the war came to an end in April 1865, Lincoln spoke about healing the country and forgiving the South. He didn't want revenge. He wanted peace and rebuilding. Thank you so much for listening to the story of Abraham Lincoln. If you enjoyed this speech and want more stories to help you speak English better, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Let me know what story you'd like to hear next.